I'm telling you, Max Steel the movie is gonna be a blockbuster.
What makes you so sure of that?
Are you kidding? A movie about us? How could it be anything but?
That's how.
Don't forget me.
Hello spirits, this is the part 2 of my Max Steel video. While that video highlighted the golden age of Max Steel, this follows season 4 through 5, plus a live action movie thrown in there. So if you haven't watched Max Steel or my video, please watch that video before this one because you will need to know some general ideas and the characters. But Max Steel. Now imagine you watch 2 seasons and 3 movies worth of a pretty good show that showed a lot of promise. And then you get to the next season, it just looks like ew. Yeah, so I already have so many problems with this film, which does suck because I really love time skips, and it's rare I get to see time skips actually get more than a few minutes. So without further ado, Max Steel, How 5 Movies Killed a Franchise, Part 2. Before I even talk about the movie itself, I need to discuss something that affects every single movie and the direction they were aiming for. So, for starters, these films lost the animation studio that worked on the earlier stuff, aka Nerd Corps, who I'm surprised and at the same time thinking it made a lot of sense that they animated Slug Terror and The Deep, which is a show I'm surprised actually still exists. I watched this shit when it was ABC 3. Anyways, the studio was later bought out by the studio later named Wildbrain, as we all know who animates the Lego shows, and later the Monkey Kid show. Anyways, the studio who took over was Arc Productions, or later renamed to Toronto Field Entertainment. They've given their services on a few projects from current or your childhood, and handled a few solely on their own. However, this studio, no offense to the animators who clearly didn't have a lot of time, was a really bad choice for Max Steel. I'm unsure if its animators had never animated a 3D show before Max Steel besides Rusty Rivets that premiered months after Team Turbo, a kids show. Now of course there was nothing Mattel could have done to stop Max Steel content besides letting the franchise end on a good note. They picked garbage, garbage, mid, garbage and garbage to sell a few toys. And you'd think the animation would be the only loss of the project. Nope. For some reason they lost the voice actors for Jefferson, Cat and Molly. They literally had to reuse Jim McGrath's voice actors, provide Jefferson's grunting, and reused audio from Nicole Oliver.
Berto!
And for some reason, whoever's role it is for the voices didn't bother adding special effects to Steel, Extroyer, Toxon, and the Elementors, which their voice is the equivalent of Berto's voice coming out of Citro with no voice effects. Did that bug anyone else? Seriously, in these films, I thought they had recast Steel, but no, it's because the fucking idiot who did this made it sound like he's voiced by Berto half the time. They're the same actor, but with a unique voice on Steel, you can't hear their voice sounding alike. I thought I would just take less than a minute to compare the voice actors so you can get an idea of just how different they are. If you don't want to, just look at the text of the screen.
I want to know more. Who am I? Where do I come from? And what's Entech's true mission?
Zombie robot creep anti-brain feeding repulsion shield. Well, took me a while, but I finally figured it out.
I'll just wait till he comes looking for me. Then make him pay for what he did.
That tech must be incredibly powerful. When I find it, maybe I should keep it for myself.
Retrieve those Ultralinks! Make no mistakes, or there will be dire consequences.
As the saying goes, that's for us to know.
In Tech, we know where their base is, and Max Steel is sure to be there.
Then use to find out!
It is. Which is why soon, we won't be.
The little one calls herself Tambastra.
We shouldn't be taking orders from him.
Then let us show her what it truly means to take the world by storm.
Give me what I want. The whole world will feel my wrath.
Need to make sure you didn't get any bright ideas about keeping Connect-Tech.
But then again, Berto isn't actually in the film anymore. Actually, none of them are, because they are all gone. As with the recast and loss of voice actors means that every one of those characters is just gone. They've been snapped out of existence, and I'm not kidding. Jefferson, Cat, Berto, Forge, they're just completely wiped out after Team Turbo. And yes, they were in the opening and at the end of the film.
In 10 minutes, everything within a 5-mile radius will be reduced to dust. I'm sorry, but your teammate and Copper Canyon are as good as...
But they never spoke once because they were in stasis. And fusion tech just erases them without any mention. Oh yeah, that space set that was gone for 16 years? Who's he? How'd they all meet? Oh, at an NTech base? What's NTech? You're Birdo's sister? Who's he? Like, they erase both of Max's parents, his friends, besides Max stealing the assortment of villains, and the only time Max's parents are ever seen again is in the live action movie, which is also a victim of it because it erases everyone unique to NTech. Dredd is in charge of NTech for the twist reveal that he's a villain. Even though if you're pandering to Max Steel fans, you might not want to make the well-known villain in that show the twist villain. Anyways, I reckon the first few minutes of Team Turbo feel like a Max Steel show. Well, besides the horrid animation, lack of voice effects, it has NTech and the regulars, Max and Steel, his flight suit, and then it starts to get off track when he uses Hammer Claw. That's definitely a bold colour choice, and to remove the mask, but okay, that's a fine form. I think you know where this is going, so let's just skip to the end. The new forms that Max takes is from then on Prime. Oh, yeah, so problem 1 is that Max will only ever go Prime mode after Team Turbo. Well, don't worry, you do see Turbo Strength, but that's about it. They just never return to the concept of Max's old forms, and his default is always Prime. Which, while it looks really cool, uses way too much red and is just the equivalent of Ben sticking to using feedback. Only Max didn't suffer consequences for it. If I said him using one mode was enough, I'd be lying because it gets so much worse. Now the film is called Team Turbo, and do you want to guess why? That's because they slapped Max's most unique and defining part about the franchise onto 2 random people and a robot. You'd think I'm exaggerating, but the plot forms Team Turbo with Max, Steel, Alex, or La Fiera, which is either actually his nickname or it's the character from The Rookie, if I'm fucked to remember. Rain, who is Birdo's sister, and Citro, who now just talks. Because even with all the voice actors they cut, they couldn't get Sam Vincent to record lines for Berto either. And remember that detail for the end of the video.
Observation. We ought to do this again sometime.
And I say 2 random characters when I should be saying 3, because Citro was always controlled by Berto and never spoke. Well, that changed. But I'm not even exaggerating when I said it. In comparison to this group, I miss Kirby. Fucking Kirby, the conspiracy nut with one joke.
New turbo modes?
Sure, Storm Mode and Tiger Mode are...
Thunderously powerful?
the cat's pajamas.
Alex is, I don't know, he's better than Kirby, but he's just boring. But they also just completely removed both of them, even in the live action movie. Actually, they just replaced Sydney for Sophia, and at the very least, this film manages to actually remember Max having a girlfriend. But honestly, she isn't that important to the film besides stressing him out and providing him a ride, when one of those times could have been easily fixed if they didn't ship out on turbo modes. But I will say that I don't like that Max will battle himself for 3 whole movies on whether to tell his girlfriend his secret identity, but will tell some guy he met that day that he's Max Steel. I wish I was joking. However, I also hate Berto's sister. Oh god damn it, if I keep saying I hate these female characters, I'll get called sexist. Unless it's fair game. But her only personality is that she's a brat and hates being called Little Thunder. Like, I'll be honest, if you want to focus on new allies for Max rather than the original 3, then that's fine. They're expanding his friendships, but you can't just wipe them out of existence, especially since they don't give these characters development or even a reason for the fans to like them besides, holy shit, they're industry plants.
Think that'll hold him?
Like, I'm not even kidding when I say this is the arcs and why they joined Team Turbo. Rain was living in the shadow of her 5 brothers, and Alex was a lone wolf. I copied that word for word, by the way, and let me just say that the writers were talking out of their arse with that.
And a good leader. Rain was living in the shadow of her 5 brothers until you showed her she could be a hero. And Alex, he was a lone wolf, but you showed him that he could make a difference.
Like, these characters have no personality, because even though I'm not a fan of Kirby, he still had an interest in the supernatural and conspiracies. Butch was a lot like Max, but had to be closeted in order to fit in. Oh my god, is Butch a gay metaphor? And Sydney had a fighting spirit that has her stick up for her friends and that actively puts herself in danger to help fight for Max Steel's cause.
Keep your ugly mitts off this statue!
Why? Who's gonna stop me?
Max Steel!
But Alejandro and Rain, I had to check their wiki, and honestly, I can't tell if it's the truth or utter bullshit. And when I go back to Rain, aka Tempestra, her being Birdo's little sister, I don't know. Since with the loss of Birdo, we never actually got to see her in his shadow, besides being called Little Thunder.
What else can he do?
I'll say this, if it was a one-off joke to piss off a sibling, it'd be funny.
Tech.
Berto did that for me? Wow, that is actually really sweet.
Query. How are you, Little Thunder?
Ah! If Berto's still alive, I'm gonna kill him!
He's never mentioned her in canon, by the way. And as for Alex, okay, in the opening scene to Teen Turbo, they are playing soccer. A teen game. Guess the person who's not kicking the ball to the teammates? Max. Oh wait, they're calling him a lone wolf because of the fucking motorcycle, aren't they? Because these arcs, or whatever you want to call them, are so undercooked to the point Steel actually had to point out to the audience what they offer to the show and how that's not even remotely true. But God in their powers. Because the most that out of all of them get is like 4, maybe 5 if you want to get technical. And that's because I bet Mattel didn't realize how expensive that was. They made a design for La Fiera's Rhino mode, but made it a toy exclusive thing. And even then, none of the forms look all that good or used that often. Tempestra has only 2 storm modes featuring ice and lightning, and that's it. Oh yeah, because there aren't just any more unique elemental storms they can give her. One of the teenouts behind Elementals calls himself Firestorm. You'd think they'd wake up. And they only use these 2 forms while La Fiera and Saito get an additional form and do the same thing as her. Honestly, this whole gimmick is more wasted than Ultimate Aliens in Ben 10. She used lightning mode in this scene, and because I had forgotten she had this mode, I legitimately thought she unlocked a 3rd mode. And unlike with Max, you won't really notice the overused transformation animations in the show because they often transition from how he moves and overall is animated really good. But when it's a team, God, it is so painfully long where they all do their sequences, not to mention the lower budget. And I have to say that all these retcons were made for one thing, and it was clear that Mattel were somehow embarrassed by everything Max Steel is. When you look at it, they change everything about the world and its characters to fit this cooler, more badass route. Only to lead the fans who knew about these changes to want to grab you by the throat for thinking about adding it, let alone actually doing it. Max's modes and powers are a prime example of this because every mode is a drastic change from his white, black and blue color scheme. Every form is either too blue, too green, or varies between red, orange and yellow. Other colours were present such as Scuba, Heat and Nova, but 2 of those were just accent colours, and the other one was just his dad's mode. And while I am on the fence about Nova mode, even that form kept blue, white and black as the main colours. And I'll be honest, some of these forms can be alright. I mean, Hammerclaw wouldn't be a bad mode, Prime is cool but it's too red, and Turbo Armor is the best out of all of them. You'd think it was just the colours that were removed, but sorry, Max's entire fucking arsenal is just gone. Flight and Strength stay for a minute long appearances, and in Turbocharged they had Strength mode for like 10 seconds. And you know how the animators for Kung Fu Panda 4 said that the last minute models were kept together with sticks and glue? Try Hay and Blue Tack for this because Jesus fucking Christ. Like, look at these. Do you seriously think Mattel wasn't thinking the past 3 seasons of Max Steel to them was a joke? Mega and Prime mode are the only ones that even remotely look like something you'd see in season 1 through 3. Even then, I don't know how that mode even had blue colours, considering the combo has Prime. Even then, during this period, the live action suit kept Max's base suit actually well, true to the adaptation. Like, I'm not kidding. Which one actually says it looks like it's from Max Steel? Because it ain't these ones. Mountain Climber gear is single-handedly the stupidest form I have ever seen. Then it comes to Max's energy, where they actively remove the most important part of him, which is his signature blue energy. In the live action movie, his energy is there and a main part of him, but the issue was that it wasn't blue. Okay, it is blue, but a majority of the time it isn't. I don't know how to explain it, but it'll sometimes be blue, and other times this clear energy with particles. There is also the issue of no turbo forms, which also doesn't show off the kind of turbo energy he can let out, but I digress. I also want to mention they unironically included the end scene with Max in flight mode in the trailer and TV spots. Way to lie to your demographic, you fucking bro. But then the movies after live action one just changes Max's energy to green. And let me tell you, the worst part about that is at the end of the video. That is how bad it is.
I'm really late for my my Zumba class.
It's nice to know they ditched all the interesting parts about Max Steel, but keep the unfunny excuse gag. I also just want to say that 10% of the live action fight between Dredd and Max were face shots. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's ironically that edited meme of Dragon Ball Evolution. Only, it isn't fan made. And honestly, I wish that was it. That was all the changes and poorly added characters and stuff and retcons. And however, the other change was also the tone. A major issue the films have afterwards is feeling too kiddie, too babied. And the best way I can sum up how it feels like is, imagine those kids shows that have their own base, their own team, and they're very similar but different. Like Spidey's Amazing Friends, Paw Patrol, it's still Max Steel, but you know, for a young audience.
Citrozol.
I feel like dancing. What?
The best way I can show an example is this. So, just 9 minutes into Fusion Tech, and for some reason, instead of them just having Team Tech's humans walk around the city, the fucking morons who wrote this also had Citro with them. So, you're telling me the giant robot, the white kid with a Max Steel shirt, brown guy who mainly wears red, and the brown guy who wears purple aren't Team Turbo? Now, they don't give any background to these characters, as I've explained through their amazing arcs that totally display what they've been dealing with for 2 films. They don't actually give a backstory for these characters, these villains, or anything really. And what I really mean is, these villains fucking suck. Now, I appreciate they made new villains. I appreciate that they reused old villains as lackeys in a way that benefits them. What I don't like is how they don't explain their motivations in the slightest to get to that point. Mortem has these unique abilities like teleportation, telekinesis, and he doesn't even use them on Max Steel and his team until near the end. Finally, a villain who wasn't in an accident. A villain who doesn't need a feed. Okay, let's just skip to the part where he's in an accident. And then turned into a zombie that requires to be fed brains in order to stay intelligent.
Do you want a pen and paper?
Maybe try acting it out, you know, like a game of charades.
Oh hey, the next villain is actually a scientific threat that nullified the entire team with ease and infuses himself with Max's turbo energy into a... Wait, Dredd? Way to go, writers, combining a new villain to be Dredd and more foes, and it doesn't help that your next villain is just Dredd. Oh, sorry, not Dredd, but he does have a weaker form than a more powerful form affected by Max's turbo energy, which also disables Max's forms, and he's voiced by, Mark Oliver. Oh, how original! Oh, how original for another villain made from an accident to be another back-arching monster? And of course, it's just Dredd's actor. At least with this design, he doesn't actually sound like Dredd, even though it's the same actor.
My magnificent terror energy. It gave us all power unimaginable.
But here's the thing about Mortem. Apparently, the entire reason he wanted the Kinect tech was for immortality. Now the issue is, we don't get told this until Fusion Tech, when he's already been turned into a zombie. And it honestly wouldn't be a bad motivation if anything he said or did suggested he was held back by human age. If they weren't going to age him up to a senior citizen, they could have thrown in some dialogue about the human weakness. I mean, he mentioned he'll turn himself into a weapon, and that's about it.
I will remake the human animal. I will turn myself into a living weapon. I will make myself a god.
We never actually see what he can do in a fight, despite how cool his powers look, because afterwards, it's just a zombie plot. But as insane or villainous these villains are, in the films, they're just pointless. Like, are they still strong a threat? Yeah. And the only time one of them felt like they were an actual threat was in the live action movie, because I think it does Air Elemental the best and worst in the franchise. The one scene he's in just builds up this eerie tension that something is unnatural about this storm. Like, the closest thing to environmental impacts was water elemental tsunami. Well, 2 of them. Before, they weren't massive storms they conjured, or volcanoes they brought to life, or earthquakes that would shatter Copper Canyon. Air Elemental, while only being in one scene with less than a physical appearance, still shows that the franchise could still bring in something new and good. It's not a lot, but in comparison to how kid-like these shows are, I'll take it. I mean, Steel ruins it because they chose Justin. Okay, not an awful voice for Steel, but Josh Brenner just sounds so bad. Like, he sounds like they paid him $5 to do a single recording session.
I'm here to protect you from everything that's trying to kill us. An insane amount of energy. Wait, chronometer. Is my mom dangerous?
Will you
No, it's okay.
cut that out?
No, I will not cut it out. When you get worked up, you generate energy. Clearly, my mom makes you upset. Knowledge of battle strategy. For example, in such a situation... You don't care. You don't care.
You're an Ultralink.
No, I mean, I guess that I am, but I am not like them.
I can't trust you.
Max, the Ultralinks are here to destroy the Earth, and your energy is the only thing that can stop them.
Yeah, no, I get it, right?
What's up?
Why am I telling you this?
Because I'm here for you, Max. I'm here to protect you, which means you can tell me anything. Careful steps, careful steps.
Yeah. And even just to go back to my point about Max and his friends walking around with Citro, I don't even know why they tried pushing for Max's face to be unrevealed and at the same time trying to hide his identity. Actually, during Turbo Warriors, they just completely erased the mask. I mean, they have a few new forms with it, but at that point, why bother? Max and his team use their powers enough times their loved ones should be in danger, except, oh what a shock, none of them exist anymore. Imagine dumbing down your cartoon from using your powers and not letting fame get into your head. Otherwise, your loved ones would be in trouble. That's actually what they did in the show. Letting every villain know your secret identity just to add some face to your toys. This point was made more for the last segment, but it illustrates that they don't know what to do for the X amount of time, so they do random stuff. Because I think the worst part about one of these films, what if I told you that in Turbo Tech that you, the viewer, you have to wait 30 minutes for a turbo mode. And I don't mean a new one, but one at all. I'm sorry, is this not a Max Steel cartoon where you use his main gimmick to sell toys? Is that not the reason you made 4 fucking films? 5 to crowdfund more money, only for it to bomb because you misunderstood your audience? All for a mode that is a worse off stealth mode, and I'm not even kidding. This form increases his stealth. It is baffling they decided to actually make it so the villain nullifies turbo forms, and I get it was to make it so the heroes are outnumbered and outpowered, but really? 30 minutes? All it does is get Steel captured, Plants vs Zombies, they take him on, get mind controlled, then finally a new form. Why? No, like, literally, what was even the point of this other than delay the runtime for 30 minutes, since even the turbo forms, they struggled to beat them. You can't take away a power that's already useless. Instead, it could have just muddled some of their forms and involved flying. Then again, that doesn't work either, because all 3 of them only had 1 form each, including Max. And for some reason, instead of getting Alex and Max to share the limelight together, they just add a random werewolf gimmick to this guy. Okay, sure, yeah, new abilities that overwhelm the team, but really? You already have so much going on, and you just make the Latino a dog? Okay, it's a panther, but he acts like a dog, and he's killed after 8 fucking minutes, so what's the point? It didn't even unlock him a new form either, so I again ask, why was this even added as a plot point? They had to go there anyways, and I'm just gonna stop while I'm ahead.
There was something different about Team Terror this time, Steel. Like they were burning with terror energy.
What? No, really? Man, I wonder what gave that away! There are probably more things I could have pricked, but I don't want to delay for much longer. Introducing the worst part about Max Steel's ruined era. Steel in the chair? What does that mean? Steel has been getting the short end of the stick ever since Season 4, and it's about time it's addressed. Now, the problem is that Steel in Season 1 through 3 has always been an important character as Max. Kind of the main thing you do when you have two main characters, and when they're the title of your show. Only the problem with Teen Turbo and Beyond is that they make Steel a background character at best, and you'll see what I mean. As I briefly mentioned in part 1, Steel has this overarching mystery that leads from Season 1 and 2. It's a story that was deeply rooted into being a part of Max's dad, this intergalactic hero he was with another on another planet, and while he was labelled and treated like a traitor, this left the audience and the characters in the dark for a lot of episodes, and here and there Max Steel would team up and break those secrets. This unlocked new modes like canon, finding out more about what killed Max's dad, that with every secret revealed, Steel would recover new forms and new pieces to the puzzle. It was a story that helped fix Steel's amnesia. He still had it as far in as Wrath of Machino, but he couldn't do it without Max, who's just as integral to figuring it out. In Teen Turbo is honestly where Steel is at his best in terms of all 5 films, but Fusion Tech is when he starts to take a small nosedive into being the most obscure character only used for transformations. As around the 20-minute mark, Steel becomes just a piece of dismantled technology for around another 20 minutes, because this is the period of when there was no turbo modes. Then another 7 minutes before Steel is fixed and able to go turbo. But honestly, these are small complaints before the actual damage sets in with these segments' main theme. However, with the live action movie, they don't really give him much to do, despite being an important part about the movie. He has a few flashbacks here and there, a suit or two, but he's matched with just an awful fucking design. I don't even know what they were going for here. And again, with Josh Brennan's voice being just as dull as that villain in Boss Baby 2. Though somehow I find myself praising Goldblum's voice acting in a Boss Baby film. Wait, he said Nutty Professor from Cats and Dogs? Like the only joke I liked when he said he was in a pool for 16 years. A joke at the end of the film.
And believe me, I never suspected Miles.
Yeah, just 16 years in a tank, Molly, no big deal.
However, Steel is at his worst with Max's green energy. Yep. So, you'd think that with blue being a generally good colour, Max being green would affect their personality in some way. Yeah, I wish the personality wolves would change, but no. Due to this sudden rush of new energy that was caused by overloading his current energy, it turned green and makes Steel so that he can no longer be compatible with Max's new energy. The character that was made specifically for the reboot to allow Max Steel these gimmick toy forms is no longer a character that's important. You can't make this up. Now, if you don't know because I never mentioned it, so while Max transforming is one part of what Steel does, the other part is that if Steel isn't there to suppress his turbo energy, this will allow villains to locate where he is, but at the same time to keep him from exploding. So them being together was a major part of the show, but in these new specials they don't need to anymore. I mean, one reason is because his loved ones, the school, his organisation, and much more don't exist anymore. But if Max can now transform on his own, Steel can't join him. What does this do for Steel? Maybe a clone mode or something? So, you know how Spider-Man has a guy in the chair? Get the segment's title now? Or So I See You? How the fuck did you know? Steel after this change becomes a character that's stuck in the base for the entire time. Oh yeah, he can upgrade the character's tech to fit Max's energy. Not himself despite being a machine alien and just becomes Berto. Wait. Because even with all the voice actors they cut, they couldn't get Sam Vincent to record lines for Berto either. And remember that detail for the end of the video. Oh my god, it's the thing he said! So in the show, the person who would be controlling a robot called Citro, working in the base to be the scientist, would be Berto. And that was fine, because he wasn't a soldier, which is why he built Citro, and by coincidence, he was voiced by Sam Vincent. Meaning in order to fit this scientist in the base, or guy in the chair, they had to subject the character to do that. And instead of Berto's sister, or another character they could have invented, no, Steel. He just had to be it.
Max, the base, it's
Like, I'm not kidding when Steel takes over everything Birdo was besides the Cytro getting destroyed gag. He modifies tech to fit Max's energy, and Steel to transform and utilize it, builds new vehicles for Max to use, and more. And like, despite Max saying this power has no limits, they don't give any of the new characters new modes.
I feel like there's no limit to what this team can do. Team Turbo, no limits. Huh. Like the sound of that.
And no, Wave Rider does not count. Max gets... Do you even count these as modes? And that's about it. They just sacrifice the blue energy, Steel, as the captain's helm for modes, just to stuff him in a room while the rest get to fight. They do nothing with what they set up, then say they just gave up and try to see what ideas would stick, without actually trying to make it so money would pick up. They don't even have Steel be a part of the story. He's just... Again, Berto. No overarching mystery or pushing himself past limits to find a way to make his energy fit. He's happy like this. As fucking if. So that's it. Steel. Being utterly useless. And not by the show's fault, but by Mattel or the writers. And with all that said and done, it's time I conclude this part 2 video. I didn't really want to add this, especially since I'm writing and recording this the same day the first part released. But here we fucking go. Of course, the elephant in the room for all those changes was because of the original Max Steel from the year 2000.
What is this cargo? Bananas.
I haven't watched the show, so I'm going off the wiki. Max, or Josh McGrath, in this show has a green aesthetic to his suit and green powers. His ally is Cytro, his parents are dead, and Steel is a computer program. If any of that is sounding familiar, let's see. Max's energy turns green. Cytro is the only remaining cast member from the original. His parents are never mentioned, and Steel is left behind in the base as what is literally a computer. Though, to be fair, the Cytro one also says he appeared in the 2008 film, which was the third last film before it ended. But it seemed he was relevant enough to be reverted from Birdo's outdoor armor to a motionless machine making, I want to say jokes, but they can't be. But my entire video, this video, about Mattel being embarrassed by Max Steel, I bullshitted that. And it was entirely right. They had to rewrite so many things for it to be as like the 2000 as possible, only for it to be universally hated by most fans, and the final nail in the coffin. What the films feel like as a bastardized reboot, and unfortunately it's a reboot of a reboot. Like, the animation looks worse, the lighting can look significantly better sometimes, especially with Toxon design being black and not grey. Makes his toxic colours pop off a lot more. Though I'd be lying and say some things were an improvement, but a lot of the time it's too bright and clearly looking cheap as shit. The films in question just feel like they've been dumbed down for children. The humour is something you'd see in a kids program, or at least something the writers think is funny that only a small age demographic would laugh at.
We ready? Born ready.
Move, please. The other way.
And they just feel embarrassed to do anything with the existing Max Steel or find something new and gimmicky to do with him, rather than strip it all away for some cheap ass toys. Now, if you actually want to watch these films, for what reason, for the love of God, just don't do it in HD, because in worse quality, you probably won't notice how bad it truly looks. But to answer the video's title, did these 5 films really kill Max Steel? Honestly? No. I don't think the franchise could have lasted any longer besides maybe another season. Plus, it's really hard to find what viewer numbers were even for season 2 in the canon films. But these films definitely cemented the death of this franchise with how Ford tried to make toys, Wyden tried to pick up some extra money, and ended up just losing a very promising show. Spirit out.